Thank you everybody for who's joining us, taking time on Sunday to come and be with us, to spend a little time. We wanted to take this opportunity to familiarize people who may have heard about the Arab American Civic Council but did not know much about it by sharing some of our recent programs, sharing some of the people that make it all happen that are here with me on the screen, and sharing the mission of the organization. So without further ado, I would like to just introduce the panelists. I don't know if it really is a panelist, but my fellow virtual participants, Johanna Mustafa, Ramzi, Sayed, Bayan Abdullah, Kareem Asayli, and Ayad Aflaki, and Rashad is at the bottom of my Aflaq, sorry, and Rashad is at the bottom of my screen here, although he is at the top of this organization as far as what was the vision behind it and who brought us all together. So thank you again for making this possible, everybody. I'll just take a minute and read the mission statement for those who are not familiar. By the way, you can follow us on all kinds of social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and definitely on our website, which is the aacivicouncil.org, aacivicouncil.org. So the mission of the Arab American Civic Council, which was envisioned by Rashad Al-Dabbagh about 5 or 6 years ago, and then we formalized it about, I think we've been in existence about 5 years, right, Rashad?
Yes.
Okay. So the Arab American Civic Council is a grassroots community-based organization that strives to advance the Arab American community in Southern California by encouraging the civic participation through community organizing, advocacy, public policy, leadership development, cultural outreach, and cultivating partnerships with other communities. And that's what we have done in one form or the other for the last 5 years. We've had some pretty nice and successful programs. We've been blessed that way. And so we want to share some of those with you guys today. So I will ask if anybody has any questions, please hold them until the very end, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. We're going to try to keep this pretty concise and be respectful of everybody's time who has joined us today on a Sunday afternoon. But we'll try to answer as many questions as you have. And if we don't get to your questions, please follow up with any one of us or drop us a note through the website or on social media, and we're more than happy to follow up with you guys, whether it's a specific need or if you have any questions regarding participating or volunteering or donating to the organization. So with that being said, I will just briefly touch on some of the areas we're going to talk about today before I turn it over. So it's on everybody's minds as well as ours. COVID-19. It has pretty much touched everybody on the planet and everybody on the screen, and little Arabia and all over Southern California. So we want to talk about COVID-19, what we have been doing in terms of trying to participate in providing some relief or some information that may be useful, content that may be valuable for people that are needing some clarification. So that's one area we're going to cover today. And then we're going to talk about the census, 2020 census, which is, as you know, that happens every 10 years, and it's been pretty important for us to participate in for a number of decades now in order to be counted. Again, the overall theme of this gathering today is Arab Americans Rising, so that's directly links to the census and participation in the census. We're going to talk about voter engagement. Again, it's an election year this year, and as always, we do try to get out there and help suggest people to register to vote, help them in navigating that process. And then leadership development, and then advocacy, and we're going to talk about the Muslim ban, which obviously is on everybody's minds for the last few years. And then we're going to talk about Little Arabia and the Arab American heritage, which is the month of April, and what we have done in the past and are doing now regarding that. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Ramzi and Rashad to talk about the COVID-19 part of this presentation.
Thank you, Raad. I appreciate you and appreciate all of our panelists and guests that are joining us today. Every year we get together in the month of April during Arab American Heritage Month to celebrate and to recognize our community's contributions and successes and honor those who have contributed a lot through our annual Arab American Heritage Gala and awards. But this year, obviously, because of COVID, we were unable to host our annual gala, and instead we were forced to host this virtually. When we started this organization because there was a void. There was a void that needed to be filled in the Arab American community to uplift our community voices, to organize, to build leaders. And we've been doing this for a few years. And because of COVID, obviously, we are doing this virtually today. And just like everyone else, we wanted to address the issues that are going to impact our community and make sure that our community is not forgotten. That's why when COVID hit, we created a COVID-19 Arab community guide, a resource guide that was translated into Arabic. We wanted to make sure that those who are vulnerable, those who are most vulnerable in our community have access to this information. And we did it with a lot of volunteers and partner organizations such as the Palestinian Youth Movement, such as the OC Poverty Alleviation Coalition, and Yalla Indivisible. We joined the OC Emergency Response Coalition, and many volunteers, and one of them is here with us, Ramzi. So I wanted to ask Dr. Ramzi to join in and talk about his experience with this project, this rapid response project.
Thank you, Rashad, and thank you, Rod. As everyone knows, this whole COVID-19 pandemic situation hit everyone without notice, and we didn't know that it was coming. We kind of knew that it was coming, but we still didn't know the implications and how bad it would be. And seeing this experience and viewing it and dealing with it firsthand, seeing the psychological, the physical, and the financial toll that this pandemic has put on everyone. Patients, caregivers, businesses, everyone basically has been affected by this, rich and poor, right and left. So after seeing this day after day after day, at work, I kind of wanted to involve myself and volunteer to help my community and figure out what are the things that I could do in whatever volunteering capacity that I can, in whatever volunteering capacity I can to help my community. I reached out to the AACC, I reached out to Rashad, and I spoke to him about my ambition really to help you with whatever that is needed to be done. And I figured that we spoke, and he told me that there's a language barrier in our community, and a lot of resources were being posted online, and they were all basically in English or in Spanish. And because of this language barrier that we had, I started translating some of the documents. For example, the payment protection plan loans, the SBA loans, the resources for undocumented immigrants, unemployment insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought that it would be a very important thing for people to be able to get their hands on, those who, the immigrants, elderly, whoever that is not fluent in speaking or reading English. So myself and another volunteer, Jamil, we were able to translate all of those documents, and the AACC posted those online, and I think also distributed them electronically. I think also the AACC part of its effort is that it pushed the Orange County Board of Supervisors to take action to basically prioritize our health and safety, because if you guys recall, about a month or a month and a half ago, there were a lot of conflicting documents coming out of the OC Emergency Response Coalition, and one day they would post social distancing measures, and the other day they would take them away. So we kind of were able to give them a little bit of a push to be able to kind of respond in a better, more timely and organized fashion.
And that's let me just interrupt you. That's an effort that's part of the OC Response Coalition, and was led by our friend Lulu, who's attending today. So thank you, Lulu, for your efforts and for taking the lead on this.
Yeah, definitely. And I do appreciate very much also what the AACC has done with helping out the small business owners in Little Arabia. I mean, all of those restaurants in Little Arabia, they're dependent on people going in there and sitting and, you know, as a part of the Arab culture to hang out and have dinner or smoke hookah, whatever they do as a cultural hangout. And now Little Arabia businesses kind of lost all of that business. So the ACC offered to support and help them alleviate any challenges or loss by encouraging folks on social media and reaching out personally to people to basically encourage everyone to take orders from Little Arabia to help sustain their livelihood as much as possible. So that's kind of how I helped, and how I actually really admire what the AACC has done in the past few months to navigate these tough times with all of our community. And yeah, I think that was awesome. So thank you.
Thank you, Ramzi, and thank you to all the volunteers that helped with this effort. Zina was one of them. Bayan was one of them. We have Rima Nashashibi, who joined us as an attendee today, and many others. Thank you so much. Raed, I just want to pass the.
Thank you, Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. And it is important to point out that we are not able to achieve any of this stuff on our own. That it is because of the support of community members that have been with us from the very beginning, and you people that basically join us. You know, we are not able to do this on our own, and it is very important that we recognize those people who do put themselves, their resources and their talents, like Dr. Ramzi there, and, you know, to the betterment of everybody as a common good and the communal good. So and the community, especially in Little Arabia, has been impacted. Like, economic impact has been very hard. So you know, there are some things we can do better given the resources we have as we get better and more agile and have more resources to bring to bear. We obviously will look at other ways to help support the community during crisis and during times that are good, like to put out the message, especially on April being like Arab American Heritage Month. We've tried to do that throughout. COVID gave us an opportunity to basically maybe voice our community, you know, elevate the community voice through these gentlemen and others who helped to get it to the attention of people like the Orange County supervisors, which you're right, Dr. Ramzi. I mean, it was very conflicting. The messaging is half the problem, in my opinion, has been the conflicting messaging, because people just don't know what to believe, what to follow. And so leadership at times of crisis is super important. So hopefully we provided a little bit of that through your participations. I want to move us to the idea, the topic of the census. Every 10 years in the United States, there's a census that takes place, and we are right in the middle of it. I mean, could we put more into 1 year? You know, like 2020. I mean, the census, the election, the COVID. I mean, what else are we going to basically put in here, right? So, with that being said, I want to pass it on to Ayad and Bayan to talk about the census, what we have done, why is it important, and if you guys will take it away for that, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday and Ramadan Mubarak for those who celebrated. And thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Rashad, for your countless hours and dedication to start this organization. Thank you, Raj, for leading the board, and thanks to the board members who are putting all the efforts during this difficult time to get together. So the topic of the census is nothing new to our community as Arab Americans. As the great U.S. Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm said, if you don't have a seat on the table, you'll be on the menu. And if there is no seat, you have to bring your folding chair. And unfortunately, has been the case for our community as Arab Americans. We have always to have our folding chair in the trunks of our cars, in the back of our offices, because it is very important for us to have a voice, and it is very important for us to be represented. As an immigrant community, one of the most educated immigrant community that our fathers and grandfathers that came to this country looking for an opportunity, they did not envision the difficulties that we will still have until 2020 right now. But the reality being, it's very important for us to be counted in this year, 2020. It has been a big challenge on many fronts for us as a community, with the discrimination, with the alienation, with the marginalization. But we learned this experience from our sisters and brothers in other communities, the African American community, the Native Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, that it is very important that we have a label. Yes, we are not numbers, we are people, but unfortunately, this is a numbers game. So why is it important for us to be counted and have our designated label? Because that it clearly will factor into our political redistricting, the human rights, the monitoring of government programs, funding, anti-discrimination laws. That means we are subject to a lack of representation and social services. So we are Arab Americans. We do matter, and we deserve to be counted as such. Self-identity is one of the complicated subjects for Arab Americans because we have a huge intersectionality. So that's why we are encouraging everyone to check on the census on the box other and identify yourself. Like myself, I am a Palestinian Arab American. We have other people on the board who happen to have more intersectionality. Like we have Rashad Al-Dabbar, for example, he is an Arab American Armenian. We have, for example, Ra'ad Ghantus, he's Palestinian, Lebanese, Iraqi, American. We have, for example, Ramzi, who is an Egyptian American. We have Karim Asali, he is Lebanese American. And Johanna, Palestinian American. We have Bayan Abdullah, who's a Palestinian American. Dina Helmi, who's an Egyptian American. So it's very important for us to have that voice and have that label. So this way we feel we are represented on the national and the local level. Now I turn the mic to my colleague, Bayan. Go ahead, Bayan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bayan. Hope everyone's enjoying their day. Thank you for tuning in with us today. I would also just like to add off what Ya just mentioned, that the census, the dramatic undercounts that our community currently experiences right now has actually left us with little information about the growing number of the Arab Americans that are Arab Americans, Middle Eastern and North African communities in our origin. And by creating a separate response category for the MENA population, it will better equip the U.S. to understand a growing constituency and allocate the federal aid that we need to address our community's needs and concerns. And by making sure we fill out the census, it ensures our community will get its fair share of federal and state funding. And this includes public health, transportation, education, community development, and much, much more. And it's really important that we do fill out the census because of the lack of representation that we do currently face And it will overall provide us a lot more research to find information about our community. And it'll help us mobilize our community a lot more, because how are we going to reach out to our community if we can't even find our own community? So I think that's why it's really important that we do fill out the census. We want to be counted. And yeah, that's what I have to say about the census.
I'd like to just add a little bit of background on the census. Is Rashad? I think I met Rashad first time when he was doing the Yalla Vote campaign with the Arab American Institute, and we were trying to push for being counted. And there's been, what, Rashad, like this is our third time around now, or second time around, that there's always been a confusion about what category would you fill when you get the census as an Arab American. And some people basically have been, filling it out as white, for example, rather than other. In part, we've had sort of the pressure of during 9/11 and possible profiling. There's some people that were basically concerned about being profiled and by self-identifying. I think we've gotten past that as a community. Now we're looking. Then there was an issue about possibly doing MENA, Middle East, North Africa, as a category that would be better maybe designated. And then here we are with this census this year, and we still don't have that category. So there's been an effort made to basically fill other rather than white. And then basically in there, you have a subcategory that you can fill out. Like in my case, I filled other, and then I filled, like Iyad was saying, Iraqi, Lebanese, Palestinian. And so it is very important that we stand up and we matter. Like, I'm Arab, I'm American, I matter was a campaign that we basically kind of paralleled with the census that's going on right now, Rashad, right? When is the end of the census period? You're on mute, Rashad.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes. What's the period of the census for participating?
Right. So right now it's until October 31st. Obviously, the deadline was way before that, but because of COVID, it was extended until October 31st. But we don't want to wait until then for people to respond. We need people to respond now.
Yeah. So please participate. But I think Rashad, you'll agree that we're encouraging people to basically fill out other and identify a little bit closer to what they are, because again, if you don't do that, like Bayan said, we basically miss out on being recognized as a formal official minority grouping that then basically is entitled to access to funding through the federal budget. And that means community funds, that means health and safety funds, all this stuff that basically, if we don't stand up and actually take part in saying, I'm here, I'm Arab, I'm American, I matter, and recognize that and identify on the census, which we have an opportunity now till October to do, we miss out on that potential. So thank you both for that. Thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. Rashad, thank you for your endless hours on that particular effort. I don't know how many hours I know you have spent on that thing, and it's census after census after census. So thank you for that. You're really looking out for the community very much in that capacity. Let me then just switch just right now. And again, please, if you're just joining us, keep your questions till the end. We will try to get to as many of them as possible. And thank you again for taking time on your Sunday afternoon to spend some time with us here. We're hoping we're bringing this information that is useful to you, getting you familiar with the Arab American Civic Council, and thank you again in advance for your support in any capacity, in any way that you can help us continue our mission and continue to grow our reach and capabilities. I want to switch to voter engagement because again, like I said, can we fit more things in 2020? We've got a census, we've got COVID, and we also, if you guys didn't realize it, we have an election, a national election, general election actually. So with that, I want to, again, turn it up to Rashad, Johanna, and Kareem to talk about the voter engagement and how the Arab American Civic Council has been approaching that particular topic specifically. So whoever one of you wants to start us off.
So voter engagement is actually one of the reasons why we started this, because we felt that there was a void and there was a lack of representation, and our community's voice isn't heard. So I feel that voter engagement and voter registration and making sure to mobilize our community to vote in every election in massive numbers was one of the most important things we need to be doing. And you know, part of the reason is that our voices need to be heard is because our elected officials are there because they are elected by the people, and we as a community need to make sure that our values are represented at the polls. So every election, we need to go to the polls or send back our voting ballots, thinking that, believing that our voices matters, our values matter, our values must be represented at the polls. Voter engagement will have a long-term impact, a long-term effect on policy and issues that concern us. When we vote, good things happen. When we make our voices heard and make sure that our elected officials hear us, good things will happen for us and for our community. I know sometimes it's hard to measure the impact of what we do, because the impact is measured long term. It's not short term. It's long term, and that's what people need to remember and remind themselves. Every election, we mobilize our community, and I'm going to let Johanna, who led the effort, and Karim, who volunteered, to talk more about that. But I just wanted, before I pass it to them, I wanted to give an example. Before 2018, we used to have, one example is a local representative in Orange County who never wanted to talk to us, did not want to talk to us, refused to meet with our community, didn't care about our issues. And the dream was that our voices matter, and our votes count, and that elected officials, before they vote on a bill, they think about us. They think about the importance of the Arab American community in their district. When that congressman in Huntington Beach was replaced by another one because the communities voted, massive number of people went out and voted, the doors opened. We don't always agree with the new congressman, but he was listening to us. He wanted us to be in his office and talking about the issues. And when it came down to voting on issues that impact us, such as the Muslim ban, he voted to end this ban. So when we all vote together, good things will happen and our voices will be heard. Johanna, would you like to talk more about the local campaign that we did?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rashad, and everyone on here. Thank you for joining us. Before we continue this discussion, I also just want to uplift that Ramzi actually had to leave as a panelist because he got paged at work. So just wanted to, uplift his work and dedication. Even when he's, working, he's still here and engaging with the community. So yes, as Rashad mentioned, I worked locally on the voter engagement campaign. I've worked with other organizations as well on Arab American voter engagement before that. And as an organizer, I understand that a lot of us might be discouraged sometimes with the system, with everything that's happening. But again, it is important to exercise our rights. One, because we do have some power, especially locally, like Rashad mentioned, in terms of shifting power dynamics. It does take a lot of work and it does take a lot of organizing, but it's possible. Another thing that comes to mind when thinking about impact is the simple little one-on-one interactions that we've had with our community members. And I've seen that, firsthand while canvassing, when I walk up to someone's door and speak their language in Arabic, and they're just, filled with joy and happiness to see someone that speaks their language. is very important. I know it seems silly, or it seems like, you know, maybe like one little incident, but it's actually very impactful when you see that interest and appreciation from our community. And when they're surprised, they're like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, you're actually only representing Arabs. Like, you're out and about, driving from one city to another on a Saturday or Friday, only to reach out Arab Americans. I think that really matters, and that shows that, you know, we're there, we're working for them. Not only does it encourage our folks to vote and exercise their constitutional rights, but it also brings about this sense of community. And I think that's even more important whenever we're organizing for any issue. When we're talking about the Muslim ban, when we're talking about Little Arabia, or, you know, counting on the census, it all comes down to representing our community and feeling like we're together and feeling like we're fighting this together. We're constantly being marginalized from all aspects. I'm not going to go into the various issues that we work on, but, you know, the voter engagement campaign, I think, helps us connect with our people and helps us have those discussions and conversations, whether we're phone banking, whether we're canvassing, tabling at mosques. I know Bayan led our entire phone bank campaign, and thank you for that. You know, like, I don't know, over 1,000 calls she made on her own. And tabling, we get a lot of feedback. We get a lot of engagement. That's what I'm trying to highlight, and that's very important. So this year it's a bit challenging, and in this crisis, I think we still want to maintain that engagement. It's a bit difficult thinking about how we want to be creative with social distancing and all that, but that's also why we appreciate you for attending this webinar, for being here virtually with us, sharing the space, and we really need your support and your input to continue the work. I also want to just highlight that we want to hear from you, and we want to receive your questions or any of your thoughts. Thank you, Rima and Rania, for sharing your thoughts on the census and voter engagement. But please feel free to type in your questions here or on Facebook Live, and we'll be sure to answer those towards the end. Kareem, I know Rashad spoke a little about the numbers and the impact, but Kareem, I wanted to also highlight your experience as a volunteer with us.
Yes, thank you, Joanna. So I just wanted to mention that I was very optimistic to see that our community fully understood the importance of participating in the election process. For example, I think our message to promote equal justice resonated a lot to the youth in our community. I think they really welcomed the opportunity to mobilize, and they were willing to discuss the long-term goals that impacted our community. More importantly, I think our community as a whole was intent on pressuring our government to address their demands to be fairly represented. And I just wanted to say that this whole experience of volunteering really strengthened my resolve to be part of this organization, because I really could see the successes and achievements that we accomplished by pursuing this campaign. And from that, I'd like to pass back to Rashad. Thank you.
So thank you, Kareem, and thank you, Johanna, for leading the voter outreach effort in the primaries. But we want to do this again in the general election in November. And always keep in mind, it's not only about the presidential race. It's also about Congress. It's also about state assembly and state senate and city council and school board. Our voices matter, and we need to make sure that we all vote and we all address the issues that impact us. And we want to do this again in November. We want to mobilize 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Arab Americans in our local communities to get out and vote. And that's why we need your support. That's why we need people to contribute. I did post a link where you can donate, but I just wanted to emphasize that this is, it costs a lot of money to mobilize people. It costs us because the software where we can get the list that we're going to call and knock on their doors, and the canvassers that we will send out, the phone bankers. We have a lot of volunteers, but we also have a lot of people that we pay to do this work. This is important work, and it can't be only done by volunteers. So it's so important that you support this work so that our voices count and our values are represented in the 2020 elections.
Let me just add, I don't know that we really just kind of like bulleted at this. We mobilized 3,500 people plus in the primaries. But
Yeah.
as Rashad said, we can do more. We need your help to be able to do more. With your support, we can do more definitely in November and going forward. I want to just give a shout out also to Rima Natsishibi, who weighed in. And yes, our votes matter. Candidates and elected officials can win or lose on one vote. So when we don't participate, that one vote that we could have made a difference, that in order to have somebody there that represents our interests, that is aware of us, when you engage, elected officials respond. Like they stand up and pay attention. We've seen this over and over and over on many issues, small and large. Their doors open. You're able to get that FaceTime with them because you're engaged, you're mobilized, you're organized. They would rather know more about you than less about you. And so whether it is through organizing a student chapter like at Chapman or any of the local universities, and the outreach, as somebody asked about the outreach of it being, is this limited to Orange County? No, from the very beginning, we always talked about the Arab American Civic Council as not being limited to Orange County. Obviously, we can only do what we can given the resources and funding and support that we can solicit through grants or through donations from you, the community, and people have been generous, but we could do so much more. Our outreach and our success, replication of our successes, formulas and efforts can be so much more far-reaching if we have the means to basically do that. So we definitely can do so much more with your support. Definitely starting with November and the elections, and this is not just limited to a general election. This is an ongoing effort for us. We're constantly trying to build that inroads, FaceTime, outreach to these elected officials, and we're not leaning one way or the other. So we tend to be sort of non-party affiliated, which also gives us a little bit of access to whoever is in an elected seat in any of these neighborhoods where we have a community representation. So thank you everybody for answering that. Rashad, did you have anything else you want to add, or should I move on to the next?
Let's move on.
Okay. So with that, again, hold your questions till the end. If you're writing it to us, we are trying to get to them as soon as we can. But I would like to shift our focus to leadership development. And with that, I'd like to again hand it to Johanna and Bayan about leadership development, please.
Thank you, Rad. I guess I'll start since I was the first fellow with the Arab American Civic Council 3 years ago in 2017. It's been a great experience, and I've been, attached and engaged and active with the Arab American Civic Council since. The fellowship really opened up a lot of doors for me in so many ways. And I do think, the fellowship is a partnership with the NAC, the National Network for Arab American Communities, that is based in Michigan, but it's hosted at different organizations all across the nation. So they usually get around, like 10 to 15 fellows, and we connect with other youth from different states and engage on different issues that we're working on. But in all honesty, I do think that I received a lot of the support, and a lot of the experience came from Rashad's support and from the Civic Council in general. It was really nice to just, get a firsthand insight into so many aspects of being part of a nonprofit, everything from like administrative work to grant writing, everything that we don't want to really think about, to advocacy work, public speaking, engaging with media, organizing events and rallies, working with national partners. I delved into all of those areas of work, and I think that that's something that you don't really get anywhere else. I personally haven't seen that in any other organization, and I'm sure Bayan feels the same way. But that's been my experience. I started as a fellow. I am now a board member, and continue to work with the organization on so many levels and in different capacities, whether I'm volunteering or doing specific, working on specific campaigns and projects. But I also want to just highlight Bayan's experience. Since she's our newest fellow, and I know that she has a lot of great things to say as well.
Yeah. So for me, the fellowship program, I'm just so grateful for the fellowship program because I feel like it has completely transformed me as a person and has made me a stronger person. Because growing up, I never really felt like I had identity. I never really felt like I knew where my place was. And growing up,
okay, tell me later.
Being one of the few Arab Americans in the classroom, and it kind of contributes to not knowing your sense of identity or who you are. And I remember feeling that way, like feeling not like belonging. And I know that a lot of our Arab Americans, our youth feels that way today too. And I just remember my feeling when I first found out about the Arab American Civic Council, and when I first found out about groups who represent Middle Eastern and Arab Americans as a whole. I just felt like, wow, there's people out there who want to represent me, and there's people out there who care, and this is my community, this is where I belong. And I hate to even say this, to admit this now, but I really do have to admit that there was even once a time where I was ashamed of who I was. And like, even when my mom would come pick me up, she would be wearing the scarf from school as a little girl. I would feel like, I didn't want people to see. And it's just, I feel so ashamed now of like feeling that way because, and I know that a lot of our youth feels that way today too, and they shouldn't. It's because, and that's because of the lack of representation that we have, in the sense of not belonging that we are forced to experience through things like not being counted in the census and not being mobilized to being engaged in voting and things like that. And by being a part of the Arab American Civic Council, it has completely transformed me. It's made me a more empathetic person, a stronger person, and it's helped me academically. I'm a lot stronger in my academics now, and it's just exposed me to all of the concerns and issues in depth of what our community is facing and what it needs. And it just being able to provide this leadership opportunity to more people from our youth is so important. And I think we need more that leadership development. And obviously we could achieve that through your support and through increasing the representation and all of the things that we've mentioned before. And yeah, I just really am truly so grateful for this experience, and because this transformative leadership program has truly transformed me as a person and has just made me into a better person overall. And even in the future now, like I've finally gotten a sense of what I want to do in the future, and before that was something that I've struggled with so much. And like I said, like I just really want to be able to provide this opportunity to more Arab Americans and just expose ourselves more to these people, because they're looking for us, like they need us. And if we're not there, they're going to continue feeling like that, and they're not going to be able to form their identities in the way that they should be, that they want to form them. And yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say. I'm sorry for the background noise. You guys could hear the lawnmower, but
no worries. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I think you really warmed a lot of our hearts with your reflection. It resonates with a lot of us, I think.
Yeah, also I just want to thank Rashad too for finding the Arab American Civic Council and providing this opportunity for me, and always supporting me and providing me with all the feedback. And just like I haven't been exposed to any of like the work before the Arab American Civic Council, like just even going to meetings and meeting representatives, meeting policymakers. And I remember once we even met with the mayor of Anaheim. That was such an interesting experience for me. And just being out in the community, getting to know all of the business owners in Little Arabia, all of that it's just made me so much, has made me a happier person overall.
Thank you so much, Bayan, for everything that you said. By the way, this is the third year we do this program. Johanna was the first, we had Peter the second year, and then now Bayan. But special thanks to Bayan, because you're doing this in a more difficult situation. Every year it was easier to manage, it was easier to work together, because we used to work in a space, in the same area that with Johanna and with Peter, and we were doing things the traditional way. Now we're shifting to online, and sometimes it's more difficult to get things done. It's more difficult to communicate. It's more difficult to complete projects. And I want to thank you so much for keeping up and getting things done in a timely manner. And I'm grateful that you are part of this organization and you're doing this great work.
Yeah, absolutely. Bayan, as regarding to the lawnmower cutting outside, you know, we do promise the fellowship program is going to be very challenging and will help you basically navigate all kinds of things, including the noise of a lawnmower outside your house. So you handled that very, very well. And for those who just had the ability to listen to Bayan basically just tell it to her in her own words, when we were preparing for this, I just have to say that she did mention that one time, and we said, okay, that's it. We're having a leadership development section added to the program, and now you see why. So thank you both. Johanna, I remember those days, and so thank you again for continuing to stick by us and be on the board now. Karim also serves on the board. I mean, it's just really a great group of people to be involved in. And so I encourage everybody to find out more about the organization, find ways to us, and we'll find ways for you guys to help with an effort or maybe develop a program around what your interests are to also further the message and the mission of the organization. One of the things I want to also acknowledge is that we are working under changing conditions. You know, we had an office for a bit. We're constantly dealing with logistical challenges. So your support is very, very much needed for us to maintain some sort of infrastructure that can be consistent, sustainable, that would allow us to be more consistent in our mission development and delivery on our programs. We're doing the best we can. We feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to achieve what we have been able to achieve, but we know full well, each one of us, that we can do so much more if we had more of a sustainable support, financial backing, and that's a big part of why we're doing this, because we want to tell you guys about us. We want to share these successes that are not only ours, but also the communities. And we'd like to basically do so much more with your help. One of the things that has been really kind of, I think, in one form or the other over the last recent years on people's minds has been the Muslim ban. And when that happened, and we found ourselves in a situation where we sprung to action right away, holding true to the mission statement, holding true to what we as an organization stand for. And I want to basically pass that on to any and all of the panelists here, my fellow board members, because this was really kind of a pivotal moment. I look back at that, and I think we as an organization, we took it to a different level, and we had to, and we were honored to be able to serve in that capacity. So with that, I don't know who wants to take that, but you know, let's talk about the advocacy during the Muslim ban.
Yeah, I remember those difficult moments when our organization was a very young organization, and we decided to be part of the process. It was very challenging for us where to start, and the reason being the intersectionality of the topic. We are not the first community to be targeted. We have our sisters and brothers in the Japanese Americans. They have been put in internment camps. We have our sisters and brothers from the Latino community. They were held on the border. So this was a very difficult moment for us as a young organization. And again, I want to remind those who just joined us, we are only 5 years old organization, and we have been doing all these programs by volunteers. One thing I want to mention before I go deeper in the topic of the Muslim ban is we have, as you see, 2 young leaders here with us. They are part of the fellowship. If you notice, we did not say internship, we said fellowship. Okay, so for a 5 years organization to be able to take and attract such a program and such talent, we have the bragging right as an Arab American that yes, we can. Yes, we can. Or as our brothers and sisters in the Latino community, si se puede. Having said that, it's very important for us to be engaged, because when the Muslim ban happened, we saw so many communities, they came and joined hand in hand with us. That did not happen overnight. That was the fruit of the efforts that our activists and our community organization, they put forward. It's when there's an attack on one of us, it's an attack on all of us. So we were heartwarmed by the overwhelming support that we received from all walks of lives and different marginalized communities as well. We felt we are part of this country. We are an asset. We are not a liability. We do matter. And we can't do these programs without the support of our community, because this is not just about this board. This is about our community. One of the important things about our organization is our work continues 365 days. Rashad, he mentioned we had a working space. We had an office for almost 2 years right now. So we can have our fellows, we can have our volunteers, we can have our board members, they can meet in a space. So again, I want to remind you, this is only 5 years. We have been taking on a lot of projects, and I am sure that our executive director, Rashad, he will share with us some of the projects that we will be taking on for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. It is very important to know that this ban was called a travel ban, but it was targeting our community. And I am glad that it did not go under the radar as it's a general thing for the travel ban. It was targeting our community. And if we did not stand up, if we did not take part of this, I don't think we would have been here today 2 years from that infamous, or 3 years from that infamous Muslim ban. When we took on the Muslim ban protests and participation, we were only 2 years old organization. Imagine the pressure that we had as an organization. So to be able to survive another 3 years after that, that speaks volume of the fact it's very important for us to be proactive, not reactive. It's very important for us to be proactive, not reactive, because our elected officials, as Rima said earlier, they get elected now by 1 vote. So when someone tells you as an Arab American that your vote does not matter, you have to think not once, not twice, not even millisecond that your vote does matter, because these are special interests. If your vote doesn't matter, they don't spend billions of dollars to silence us and to have our community on the sidelines. So our community matter, our representation matter, our voice matter, our issues matter. We do matter. We are not numbers.
You're absolutely right, Iyad. This is so important, and that's why we prioritize building relationships with our elected officials, and also mobilizing our community, building leaders, and making sure that folks know that they need to be communicating with their elected officials. But since the start of the ban, since it was first announced, we've been on the forefront of initiating actions, like you said. For example, at the LAX airport, we weren't only there to demonstrate, but we were also there to serve as translators to refugees stuck at the airport to communicate with their attorneys. We made sure that we demonstrate, but also be of that help, immediate help for people to find relief and find support. And then we also did the Refugee Guidebook, responding to this racist rhetoric and racist ban by providing something positive, a guidebook, a refugees welcome guidebook, that's what we called it, so that our local immigrant communities and refugee communities have access to information. provided to them. We hosted events and dinners so that people can get access, and so that the local community have the opportunity to meet our new Americans, our refugees at the time, and provide support in any way they can.
Rashad, also the book was not, when we say guide, it wasn't like about 20 pages. It was more than 200 pages.
Right.
It was one of its kind. So it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of volunteer work. It takes a lot of professional support as well. And thanks to you, Rashad, for that.
And thanks for our team and our partners and our volunteers as well. And with the expansion of the ban, we must increase our effort to uplift voices impacted by the ban and engage elected officials to take action to oppose it. I don't know if Johanna or Bayan or anyone else would like to jump in. And
I mean, I agree with everything that has been said so far. I think it's very unfortunate that since I've started organizing in the very, brief 3 years of me organizing, the Muslim ban has been a thing and still is a thing, and we're still fighting it. And I guess I just want to highlight the fact that the ban and other immigration policies is just one other tactic and attempt to constantly otherize our already marginalized communities, whether we're talking about Arab Americans or other groups that we work with in other communities that we collaborate and partner with. Whether we're talking about refugee bans, asylum bans, the Remain in Mexico policies, the public charge, we see it in different forms, in different languages, and on all levels of government. We see it in our neighborhoods, when with ICE raids. And so it's what I'm trying to say. It's a very, it's a larger systematic problem. And I think that even in this moment, we might be more focused on COVID and again, rapid response efforts, which are also very important. But I don't think it's very important that we don't lose sight of the bigger issues that continue, that keeps us in this state, right? Of being oppressed or marginalized in our own communities. So that's my thought when it comes to the Muslim ban is, wow, oh my God, I can't believe I've been organizing around the Muslim ban for years now. And it just keeps getting tougher and tougher. And we can't do it without your support. We can't do it without your own advocating. We're all advocates for ourselves, as an advocacy specialist. Yes, I do this work full time. We meet with elected officials. We try to represent the community as much as possible, but every single one of us can also advocate for themselves. And we need you to make your voices heard. We need you to support us in any way you can, join us, volunteer with us. It's very, very important. And again, I know that we are dealing with a lot right now from all levels, personal, work related. A lot of people, a lot of my friends got laid off. I've experienced that too. It's very tough. So when we're talking about priorities, it can get tough to think about, am I going to think about myself or the larger systematic issues? But I think we can do both, and we have a plan and we're working on it with the Civic Council. So please feel free to support in any way you can. Reach out to us if you have any input that you want to provide or just, contribute in any way. But I also know that Bayan has also been thinking about this a lot lately. So I want to pass the mic to her.
The Arab American Civic Council, we are thinking about making some more efforts in uplifting the voices to talk about the Muslim ban and how our community has been affected by it. And to do that, we do want to host a lot of advocacy trainings, and we want to meet with more policymakers and more representatives and encourage them to actually take action on repealing the ban. And but like Johanna said, we aren't alone in this, and we have to tackle this all together as a community. And I really liked how you touched on personal issues and the systematic issue as a whole. And like you said, we can do both, but the only way we can do both is collectively. And by seeing you guys all here, like supporting us right now, it's giving me a lot of hope on making this effort and creating these advocacy trainings. And not only that, but we want to also inform the community about what exactly the Muslim ban is and what its implications are, how they're going to specifically affect our communities, and what we can do later on after that, what kind of actions we could take to actually make efforts into ultimately repealing the ban, but also like educating people about it. And I think right now the best thing that we could do with COVID going on is just to educate people about the ban and to inform them what it actually means. And I think that once more people actually understand what the ban is and how it's affecting people and separating families all over the world, then more people are going to want to support. And it is our responsibility right now to inform people and to educate people. And as the Arab American Civic Council, I'm really excited to say that we are putting in a lot of efforts to address this to the community.
Yeah, and this is bring a very, very pivotal point right now, because there's a lot of our traditional organizing effort has shifted due to the pandemic, due to the restrictions that we have. And rather than viewing this as an obstacle, we see it as an opportunity to connect with our community, to tell them we are here for you and you are not alone in this, especially for our new community members who happen to be refugees, asylum seekers, or DACA recipients, whatever it may be. So we see it as an opportunity to connect with our community in new ways while we're still working with our people. So it's the same way we are connecting with you today. So this is an appeal to you today. For us, communication is a two-way street. This is not my organization. It's not Rashad's organization. It's not Johanna's organizations. It's not Bayan's organization. This is your organization. So you have the choice to make now in terms of providing us with the funds, with the resources, with the ideas. We are open for ideas and suggestions how we can do this together. So it's all about building bridges. We have enough walls, enough silos, but that's one of the unique things about our organization is we are open to embrace new ideas and putting our community first.
Thank you, Iyad. Yes, I mean, from the very beginning, we were very cognizant of making sure that this was a big tent organization, that it really reached out and appealed to a lot of people, regardless of where they may stand on a particular issue or not, that they would feel still comfortable that they have the ability to contribute, to participate, to support. You know, just want to wrap up with the issue of the ban. The ban itself is also important because it showcases the fact that nothing is stagnant, that what started a couple of years ago in one format has basically evolved and continues to expand. It's become more inclusive of immigration policy's position as a whole. It has touched on grave injustices on communities of color. There's been a lot of executive orders with expansions, you know, asylum bans, refugee bans, recent ban of travel from China. You know, that's just, there's always these things that are happening in real time. And so we have seen these injustices further be exposed even with the virus. Like, and I'm sure that we haven't seen the end of that. I think there's going to be probably some stereotyping, and there's some compartmentalization probably of people, some easier than others because of the coronavirus. You know, do you wear a mask? Don't you wear a mask? You know, you name it. These injustices are happening all around us in real time. So we as an organization, we really need your help. Because while we all organize for rapid response efforts to tackle the current moment, in, like, for example, the pandemic, there will always be something else. So we need to work toward strategic and systematic infrastructure that allows us to be more effective when we rapidly respond. So again, I want to thank everybody who is joining us today. Thank you so much again for taking time out of your Sunday to be here with us, to allow us a chance to share with you what we have done. The Refugee Handbook was an amazing success, and it has not been discussed here yet or shared, but we had communities from different parts of the country that reached out to us to basically want us to take that template and basically make it relevant to their own immediate information within their locale. But by doing what we did with the Refugee Handbook, thanks to support and grants that we were able to receive at the time, we were able to basically build an infrastructure or a template that could be utilized by other regions to equally provide support to that vulnerable population. Kareem, I don't know if you want to take a minute also and talk about our ability to reach out to local members of Congress on this issue, and how that has been something that, due to the efforts of this organization, we have a welcoming reception from those people, and we're able to basically convey our concerns and the community's needs directly, face to face.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it was the most effective action we took was to meet with our local representatives. I thought that even though the Trump administration brought in the ban, it was reassuring to see that some of these local representatives supported our calls to pass legislation to end the ban. I think with that being said, also, I still think we need to organize and expand our efforts to engage with our local representatives, because I think that's the best chance we have to get our message across. And I think it's also crucial if we want to discuss other bills too, such as the BDS bill, if we want them to be more receptive and supportive of bills protecting our constitutional right to boycott. I think this is another reason why we would need to engage with them and really dedicate a lot of our efforts to engaging with them as much as possible.
Thank you, Kareem. Yeah, I will again say, if you're here, you are paying attention to this, you're wanting to know more about this organization. We're all basically Arabs. We're Americans. We matter. These are ways we matter. These are ways we participate. Civic engagement, which is a primary tenet and pillar of this organization, is exactly how we start. And volunteering, I will tell you from personal experience, volunteering is one of those things that rewards you in ways that you never expected, and it stays with you. And there's really pleasant surprises along the way. There's challenges, but there's also opportunities, like Iyad basically said. With that being said, I know the topics have been so far kind of like empowering, uplifting, but also very serious. I want to talk about something. I want to end this discussion with one thing that we are also involved in, that we all feel very good about, and hopefully at some point in the near future we're able to participate in physically taking part in this, which is the idea of Little Arabia, and about American heritage and the designation of Little Arabia and Anaheim as as a district. And the person who needs to lead that conversation is none other than Mr. Rashad. So would you take it on, Rashad?
Sure. I mean, Little Arabia is a community hub for all of us. We all go there and we all shop and hang out there. I mean, obviously lately it's different, but for a long time we've been leading an effort to uplift the voices of Little Arabia, and an effort to designate Little Arabia. There's been a lot of challenges as far as designation, but when we started talking about Little Arabia, it was nobody knew it as Little Arabia except for those who actually own the businesses or that live there or go and hang out there. Now, even though it's not officially designated, our city council members, our mayors, our local elected officials, the media call it Little Arabia. And it's not only about the name, it's about empowering the businesses. It's about organizing the community and recognizing and taking pride in our culture, in our work ethic and business. So the effort to designate Little Arabia is ongoing, and we will continue to mobilize for safe spaces and lifting up Little Arabia and the small businesses in the area. And just like in reacting to COVID, we did reach out to all of these businesses, and we will continue to organize and and make sure that that soon the designation will be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just also want to add that, you know, the designation again is not just to simply say, oh, this is Little Arabia and end of story. I think having a strong relationship with Little Arabia businesses and the community is also very important, and translates into all other work that we do in the organizing work, to the advocacy work that we do. And the first thing that comes to mind is when we canvassed Little Arabia, I canvassed Little Arabia businesses to make sure that their workers, if they have any undocumented workers, and a lot do, know their rights when we had the surge in ICE raids in Orange County. And again, it was received with a lot of appreciation and love, and people were interested, and we were able to, they were interested, but at the same time, we saw the need. There was a huge need that I didn't really anticipate. A lot of workers didn't know their rights, and they were very excited to see us there and discuss the issue with them. So my point is that it goes beyond just having a sign on the freeway, or, you know, just like saying, this is Little Arabia, come ergel and smoke hookah with us, you know, like, yes, we have that, but it's more about building community, and that's one way to build community, in my opinion.
And yeah, and that effort is ongoing. I mean, it's going to take on a different set of priorities and focuses with COVID, because those are businesses that are struggling for their livelihood, for their survival. You know, we're going to basically have to shift into a little bit more of like maybe business development or support or messaging or something as an organization, because yes, whether it is officially on a sign that's off the freeway, of the 5 freeway or not, or the 22, it is still dealt with, and we constantly get requests from media and you know, even the local officials that have not officially designated it still refer to it as Little Arabia District. So that being said, it is a common home for us. It's a part of a hub and a sort of a heart of our community, symbolically or otherwise, whether it's geographically defined or not. And it is going to basically require your support as a community, whether it is in terms of frequenting those businesses, you know, spreading the word to other people, you know, highlighting the things. I mean, these businesses are people. They're members of our community. They're not just businesses that have no faces. They're families. They're, you know, supporting. They support the economy. They have employees that they hire. And I happen to have by me, when we were talking about this, because I was privileged to be with some of the board members of the Arab American Civic Council, invited to the Orange County supervisors last year to receive an acknowledgement, even though prior to that we had a bunch of cities, thanks to Rashad's effort, a lot of cities that had already acknowledged at the city level that April is Arab American Heritage Month. The 2019, we were invited to the Board of Supervisors to actually receive this, which is a resolution basically acknowledging April 2019 as Arab American Heritage Month. So again, we are not only advocating on levels that are super critical to people and members of our community, but we're also trying to elevate the communication and the conversation and the dialogue when it comes to Arab Americans, especially in our immediate area. You know, we're providing alternative messages, alternative realities to some of the maybe more stereotypical messaging that sometimes is out there. It makes it harder for those stereotypical messaging to take hold when you have an alternative narrative that is being supported consistently. And we cannot do this without you guys. We cannot do it with your continuous support to our organization to help us do this. We've done a lot in 5 years, and we're all very proud for what we've been able to accomplish, but we also know that it was a hard road, and in some cases we had to be very strategic. We'll continue to be that, but we can definitely do a lot more with your support, and that's why we're also taking the time to share with you the organization that you obviously can tell from the passion that these people that I'm sharing the screen with here have. Every single one of them brings that on a daily basis. They bring their A game every single day for the benefit of this community, and we need your support in order to make that happen. I think with that, I would like to turn it to Q&As if anybody has any questions that are in attendance. Thank you again very much for joining us. I know we are running a little later than we thought, but thank you again for spending your Sunday with us. If there's any questions at all that people are interested, please ask them in the chat window, and we will try to answer them. As we wait for those to come in, I also want to tell you that the Arab American Civic Council is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so your donations are tax deductible. And there is a link that is being shared in the chat window that you can donate at. I'm going to try to give it to you verbally here as well. It's actionnetwork.org, like actionnetwork.org/fundraising/donate-to-the-Arab-American-Civic-Council. Sorry, it's the way that we had to put it in there.
If
but
you go to our
Rashad,
website, you can click on the donate button there.
Or you can go to the website and click on the donate button. There's also probably a link, or there will be relatively soon. But I know we are very, very cognizant of making sure that whoever wants to support and participate, there's information on social media on our pages, the Arab American Civic Council on Facebook. There's also an Instagram account. There are some questions that have been collected, and I will try to find those. But if any of my panelists would like to basically just add a couple of words before we conclude this while I look up those questions.
I just want to thank everyone, and also I want to give a shout out to our board member who's with us, Dina Helmi. She's attending, and also some of our former board members such as Marwan Sbeita and Lubna that are with us attending. Thank you for your dedication. But Rad, I think we have some questions here. Can we?
Yeah, I'm trying to find them, Rashad. If you see them, please go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a question from Noura saying that some Arabs are spreading info online that making other on the census is pointless. So just to address this, the census counts us as white, but people are free to identify themselves by checking other and identifying themselves the way they see fit. This information is not pointless, is not going to be wasted. It will be available, and it's and all of our national organizations that cater to Arab Americans are encouraging that. They are encouraging to check the other box, so it's not pointless at all. And then I think the other question about
Rashad, I just want to add one thing, that it is time for us to stop thinking of microwave solutions. Change takes time, and to get to this point, it took years and years. So just want to point out that, like, unfortunately, some people that think something had to happen overnight, but change is a process, not a phase.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah.
There was also a question regarding whether we have a list of businesses that are basically participating in the curbside program in Little Arabia. I know I don't know if we have a list, but we definitely have knowledge of people that are, and we're more than happy to provide that. Rashad, do we have an actual formalized list yet, or we can provide one maybe?
Well, we have a list, but it doesn't necessarily identify which ones participate in the program. I think that's something doable that we can do.
That's great. And then there was a question about if this work extended to the areas of Riverside and Inland Empire, and like I had mentioned before, the efforts are not limited to Orange County per se, which is where we are physically located. We have from day one wanted to make sure that wherever we could be of positive impact, we will be. But it is also, our efforts are geographically limited to the resources that we have available. So we are trying to engage people beyond just Orange County for sure, whether they're student engagement relevant to a particular effort, or just in general volunteer capacity or a fellowship program. We're doing that limited to Orange County, but we definitely need your support in order to be able to reach, not only reach out beyond our immediate Southern California area, to like maybe the Inland Empire or even beyond, but we also, in order to do that in a sustainable manner, because that's the other thing about this, is if you basically go in and you do this and it's a one-time, one-off, it has a tendency to not basically be effective. So, you know, you plant the seed, but then you have to water it, you have to nurture it, you have to basically be sticking around long enough to help, you know, collect the harvest and reap the rewards. So we can only do that with your support and continuous support at that. So please help by donating. And we also always welcome your volunteer efforts, whether it's specific to a certain duration of time because the effort is defined, or just in general, like an area of focus of interest that is always going to be something we need to deal with as a community. So I hope that answers that question. There was a question about that the many states, and this is relevant to COVID-19, many states, including California, are considering partial reopening of businesses or workplaces. Do any of the panelists, and I'll pose that question to the panelists, do any of the panelists have thoughts on how we can pressure local government to ensure workplace protection or the right to abstain from work until there is clear evidence of safety amid the possible second wave of COVID-19? There's a couple of issues, obviously, in that question. You know, the right to abstain from work, the sort of protection of provided in a work environment. If anybody wants to take that, or I can attempt to answer it. Anybody has an answer to that?
I mean, I think we're joining efforts done by our local partners with the OC Emergency Response Coalition to tackle those issues and address them. Obviously, there needs to be a safe transition. There's actions taken by the local authorities, and we're following our partners on taking as they take the lead on this matter.
I will add this too. I think, you know, anybody who has been following the effort, obviously there's sort of we touched on it earlier, this sort of lack of certainty of knowledge, of information. Like, where do I go for information that I can count on, that's not going to shift on me tomorrow? You know, I go down a certain path, and it goes to everything from how do I apply for any of these funds and relief amounts, you know, to okay, now I've received my PPE, but then what do I basically do? How can I basically get people to go back to work? I've heard that too from people, where people, you know, that they're supposed to hire the same number of people that they had. That's why they got the funding. And now they can't get those people to come back because they're getting paid more from their own relief, you know, unemployment, than they would have basically making it. So that's a real issue for business owners. Like, they're trying to navigate that. But I will say this. I think when it comes to protective measures, whether it's social distancing or masks or what have you, the only way we are going to gain ground is through education, is through consistent education. Like there's going to be resistance, like there is in anything that the human condition resists change. And to basically have restaurants now basically have to operate where people are, you know, 6 feet apart, every other table is out of circulation, you have to have a plexiglass, you have a no hands, you know, hands-free POS, additional cost of all of that, on top of the fact that you're now operating at 50% capacity, and the margins being as thin as they are in sectors like the, you know, hairstyling salons, spas, restaurants. The only way we are going to navigate this together, because that's at the end of the day, we have to do it together, is going to be through education. And I have found many people who have taken that path have shared with me that if you are consistent in your messaging, that you are respectful, that you are empathetic with people, regardless whether they are on one side of this or the other, in terms of, do I wear a mask, do I not wear a mask? Open right now and forget about it. Let's just open everything without regulations. Well, the state and local governments have their own guidelines that they are basically willing to enforce. In our role and capacity as an organization, I feel that our best way for us to help and be helpful for this is to continue just to provide information that can be counted on and continue to be consistent with our messaging. That means that we have to be respectful of everybody on all sides of this equation: the business owner, the employee, the person who is the guest and the client that maybe is not feeling safe enough to come out. And at the end of the day, it is a free country. So we have to also be cognizant of that. that is our role as an organization that's looking out for the ultimate, which is empowering people with information and giving them a sense that their voice matters, and that we are here to help in any way we can. But we are, that I think is the way that we are all as a community, whether it's the Arab American community or the Southern California community at large. That is the only way we are going to be able to successfully navigate COVID-19, maybe COVID-20 next year, COVID-21. I mean, this is a test for our resiliency, yes, but it's also a test of our willingness to work together towards a common positive outcome. So we shall see how that experiment rolls out, but we will continue to put out the messaging we need to and be consistent about, and hopefully it's helpful. There was another question about which local races or local officials do you have in mind this year, which is an interesting question for us as an organization, because it steps into an area where we individually basically are more than willing to probably share our thoughts on. However, as an organization, we, from the very beginning on our foundation, we basically are we're secular, we're non-religious, and we're not party affiliated. So we try to basically not weigh in terms of who we favor or who we endorse. However, what we have done in the past, and we might do this again if it's appropriate, is we provide open forum for candidates to maybe debate or to provide that, because we feel that that is in direct connection with our mission, which is that we provide an opportunity to civic engagement. But I don't know that we as an organization will be providing a voter guide of who you should vote for or you shouldn't vote for. That's just not our
You're absolutely right. And just to reiterate, yes, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we do not endorse, we're nonpartisan. We do not endorse candidates, but we do encourage our communities to make their voices heard.
Absolutely.
We encourage them to get out and vote. So when we do voter outreach efforts and GOTV efforts, get out the vote efforts, we don't tell anyone who to vote for. We just tell them, you need to be voting because it's so important that you make your voices heard. And we don't take positions on any candidates, but we can be providing a forum, like you said,
right,
for candidates to address issues or compare candidates on how they stand on the issues.
Yeah, we are all about basically encouraging people to find their voice, to feel strong about their voice and to voice it. And so, that speaks to our efforts in voter registration. That speaks of our efforts in terms of, the census. That's in direct connection with our mission statement, relevant to actually which and who you should vote for. I'm sure the only thing that I think, I'm speaking for everybody, but I think everybody would agree with me, that we encourage you wholeheartedly to do as much in-depth, study, research, review, look into these matters, and not take your vote lightly. Like you should definitely educate yourself. You should definitely be very informed as a voter, and that we all look at as being a responsibility. It's not just a right, but it's also a responsibility. As an American citizen, you have the right to vote and to have your voice heard, but you also have the responsibility to educate yourself as much as you can so that your vote is representative of what your beliefs and what you stand for. So we encourage you to be a very informed voter. We encourage you to register to vote. We encourage you to join us if we have a forum or a panel discussion where we have candidates that are running for the same seat from all sides of the aisle. But I don't think we'll officially, as an organization, ever tell you who you should vote for or who you shouldn't vote for.
Well, Raed, it's worth mentioning that we advocate for the issues, not the candidates.
Well, we advocate for the issues, and we are an open, like I said, we are a big tent. So we've had support from all sides. And we really don't believe that. We're all in it together. And when it is a common good, then it's a common good. And it doesn't matter what color jersey you're wearing, or whether it's at a state level or a local level or a municipal level or a national level. We are here to help people basically get engaged. Like I said, civic engagement is our primary focus. That's why it's in our name, Arab American Civic Council. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, I would like to just basically thank everybody that joined us. I was very excited to see that a lot of people basically joined us from the very beginning and stayed with us until the very end. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's Ramadan. We understand that this is something that you gifted us with today. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us on social media or through the AA Civic Council website. We are all available to you and easy to find. So thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us. And I wish you guys a good afternoon. Happy Ramadan, and we will be around. So we look forward to hearing from you. Without you, we cannot do what we do, and we really would like to do so much more. So hopefully you will support us with your time and your resources. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks everybody on the panel for being here with us this afternoon as well.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Oh, and I want to give a shout out to our secret coordinator that's been collecting all the questions as well. Zina, thank you very much for your efforts. She is behind the scenes, but she's made this very possible. So we hope to bring you more of these in the future. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.